let me introduce myself. My name is Kate Friels. I'm a PVUSD, that's Pajaro Valley Unified School District Technology Innovation Coach. I like to ride my bike around Watsonville. And I have my email address here for you. Please use it if you have questions anytime during the meeting or after. I'm here to help. And this session is going to be all about how you can break the ice during the first week of school, building some community with your students. And we're going to be going over some ways to do that both in live meetings with your students on Zoom or Google Meet and through some asynchronous methods as well. We've only got 45 minutes together today, so I will just keep going. It's hard to hear you over the music. The music should have stopped. Please let me know if the music is still going. Looking in the chat, see no music here for Brannon. Should have stopped since we're on the second slide now. Okay, I hope that you can hear me, Ann Cardoza. We'll keep moving. So to start, I'd like to know a little bit about you. I'm gonna pop a link to a Google form into the chat in just a moment. And I'd like you to fill out a couple questions about yourself. There we go, that's what I want. Let me make this bigger. Okay. Thank you for your patience while I go grab that, that link to my Google form. And you're probably seeing me look for it now. So I created this Google form and I just want to make sure I get the correct link for you all to fill out. I'll go ahead and shorten that. Okay. And get back over here to the chat. All right. Took me a second there, but you should see a link there in the chat now. And you can click on that link to head over to my Google form to share a little bit about yourself. Just asking, oops, I'm sorry. It looks like I added a question here. The first question should not have been on there. You can, and they're all required. So you can type anything in that first one. What is your role in education? That should have been, the second one's a multiple choice question. But I just want to see a little bit, learn a little bit about you. Looks like I've already got 5 responses in, 8 responses. So I'm going to pop over and just show you who's in the room. We'll go by question. So after your names here, I will learn. Oh, let's go questions. Question 2, what is your role in education? All right. Let's see, we've got 38 teachers in the room and 1 other, so we're mostly teachers. And we've got 20 from Santa Cruz, 15 from Watsonville, some Aptos and San Lorenzo. Mostly we're in Santa Cruz and Watsonville. And looks like we're pretty evenly split between using Google Meet and Zoom for our class meetings. And our favorite Ninja Turtles. Ooh, a lot of Michelangelo fans in the room. Not a lot of love for Donatello here. So this is I made a simple Google form. And if you're sharing your screen during a meeting, you can show your students the responses as well so that they can see a little bit about their classmates. I see someone in the chat is looking for the form. I put a link in the chat, so if you scroll through the chat, you should see that link there. Thank you, Angela, for posting that again. And looking through the chat, I see Kiri Neal's here. Hi, Kiri. Some teachers from Minty White. All right, so thank you for filling that out. Just wanted to learn a little bit about who we are and how we are using tools for class meetings. So I'll make sure to cover things that could be used in both Zoom and Google Meet since we're kind of split 50-50 on that. So this next slide I wanted to share with you is kind of has some more resources for how you can use Google Forms to learn about your students. I found a great resource online yesterday made by Jennifer Findley. And it's linked here. I'll show you what that looks like. Exit full screen. Sorry, let me go back there. So here's a link to Jennifer Findley's PDF where she has prepared some great templates for Google Forms that you can use for check-ins with your students. She's got a beginning of the day check-in, end of the day, beginning of week. I'll show you what one of those looks like. Here's her beginning of the day check-in. It's going to force me to make a copy, but I just want to show you what it looks like. She's got graphics in there, and when students fill it out, right, she's got multiple choices for how they're feeling. Do they need any help finding their work? Is there anything else they want to tell her? And then even some emojis to help them describe how they're feeling today. Right, so that could be useful for younger students. And she's shared all these with permission to allow people to make their own copies and reuse. So that is a super cool resource. Not only does she have all these links here for those form templates that she's already made, but if you scroll down, she even walks you through how to make your own copy and how to edit those and change the questions to make them fit your needs. So those are all linked off of that slide there, and I encourage you to check those out. Oops, let me hit back to my slideshow. Sorry for popping into my email there.
And there's a quick question about that presentation. Is it possible to add audio to a Google form to help the little ones read the question?
Oh, thank you. I do not know about adding audio to a Google form. If someone else in the chat is more familiar with that, please pop in. But that is something that I can definitely do some further research on for you. So if that's something that you think is going to be a make or break for your students, please send me an email, kate_friels@pvusd.net. It's also in the presentation, but I would be happy to find that answer for you and get back to you on that. Alma says, yes, there is a way. Then I will find out. Awesome. The read and write extension might be an option. Great, thank you all for chiming in on that. So those same forms, those templates are mostly for the daily check-ins, like how you're feeling, do you need any help with your schoolwork? But those can also be great for student interest inventories, you know, finding out a little bit of information about your students. Just maybe you used to give out a paper interest inventory at the beginning of the year, asking, you know, what's your favorite food? How many siblings do you have? Those kinds of questions can go into a Google form and help give you some information about who your students are. Oops. So on my next slide, I just have a little bit of information to help you plan for a successful class meeting. I'm not going to be getting into icebreakers and games with your students unless you have already set up good expectations for how to just behave in the meeting in general. So I won't go too much into that, but I have these resources here for you to check out later. I have found a lot of great resources from Ben Cogswell in Salinas. He's a kindergarten teacher who makes great videos and has a whole website full of resources that he shares, a lot of stuff on using Seesaw. But this video here is just how he sets his expectations with his kindergarten students for virtual meetings. And then I have a Google drawing here that I made of some expectations for some older students, right, for our readers. And on the presentation, you can click the link to make yourself a copy of that and edit it to whatever expectations you have for your class. And then the first tool that we should all be using, I think, for getting our students interacting in meetings is the chat feature. For those students who aren't typing sentences yet, we can ask yes or no questions to type in the chat. We can ask one-word answer questions. And this can be, again, a social emotional check-in with our students, or we can post conversation starters in there. You can have a question up on your presentation when students come into your meeting and give them a few minutes to chat in the chat, you know, if they are typing, and make sure that they know how to use the chat, whether you're in Google Meet where chat goes to everyone, or whether you're in Zoom and they can direct message participants. You want to make sure they know how that works so that they can respond to an individual if needed. But I'm going to also get into some games that we can play with our students in just a minute. On this slide, I just threw in a few ways to make your presentations more interesting. Emoji, these are both Google Chrome extensions, and emoji keyboard can be super useful to help your posts in the chat stand out. Right, someone was looking for the link to my my Google form, and I might have made it easier to find if I had included an emoji. Oops, now it wants to go to the Chrome Web Store. I think it might need, let me try popping this emoji in there. And so now I've added in the chat my link to my Google form with a little heart emoji. Right, so using those little emojis can help your messages stand out in the chat when you've got a bunch of students throwing stuff in the chat too. Let's see. Can you show chat to students? So right now I am presenting my screen and my chat is open. And you probably can't see it. It's on top of my presentation. So I don't think you can really in Zoom show the chat to students. I know in Google Meet when I present my screen, it does also show the chat. Oh, actually I believe right now I'm sharing a window, but if I presented at my desktop instead of just a window in Zoom, it might include everything, including the chat. So that's a way to show your chat to the students, Barbara. Thank you for that question.
And then Kate, Emily had another question. Do you recommend keeping direct messaging on for students from participant to participant?
That is a personal preference. I haven't, I have been a technology coach since the distance learning began, so I haven't had as much experience in the wild with students as you all have. And I could totally see how keeping that direct messaging open could be a distraction, and students would be maybe just typing back and forth to each other rather than paying attention to your meeting. So given that, I would recommend turning that off, right? Unless you want to use that for some type of little like breakout session. But I prefer to use breakout rooms for that. Thank you, Kat, saying turn it off on and off as needed. Yeah, it's good to keep in mind when you need them to focus on you. Right? So the other extension here that I haven't enabled yet this morning is custom cursor. But using a custom cursor is great on my presentations because it helps you see where I'm clicking around. And I can choose a different color. I can choose different cartoon characters, including Ninja Turtles. And I can change the size of my cursor. So now I've got custom cursor set, and you should see like a big green cursor on my presentation. And that's a lot easier for you to see as I'm clicking around. So that one's called Custom Cursor, and you can download it at the Chrome Web Store. So just a couple extensions that I think are handy for your class meetings. But let's get into the fun and games, the icebreakers, what we're here for. So these are all like low-tech games that you could play online with your students. And most of the games that you might have played in the classroom can be adapted to an online version. So I've seen a lot of teachers playing Scavenger Hunts with their kids where you can put up a list of items and try to make them general, right? Instead of saying, go find a history book, right? Maybe saying, find something you can read. That way there's more options for students. They can grab a cereal box or whatever. But you can incorporate some geometry concepts in there or art to have them go find some objects, get them moving around the room, and they can bring them back and put them in front of their screen, right? First one to have them all there. Would You Rather is a game that you can play in chat or with hand gestures, right? If your students aren't typing yet, you can say, would you rather number 1 or number 2? Hold up your fingers on the camera. Would you rather number 1 go to the beach or 2 go to the mountains, right? Have everyone participate that way, and kids will get to learn a little bit about their classmates. Descriptive drawing is another idea. You can have them using pencils and paper at home and describe a picture to them. Maybe you have drawn a picture of a monster yourself, and you can say, my monster has 5 eyes and 1 in the middle. give all the details of your monster and then have your students show it in the camera and see how different they turned out. Who's who? You can have students email you some facts about them, and then choose one student a day to share 3 facts and have the students try to guess who that is. 2 truths and a lie is always a fun one. And when you are sharing your 2 truths and a lie, or you're introducing yourself to your class, and maybe you're going around person to person, it's good to make sure that you focus on that one person. So in Google Meet, which I'm a little more familiar with, you can use the spotlight view to have it show whoever's talking. But that's another great, if someone has an idea for Zoom for that, how you can make sure that all students are focused on the speaker, just go ahead and pop that in the chat if you could, that would be helpful. But those are some just low-tech games you can play. And now let's move into some digital games. So I have a few tools here that I have found can be pretty easy. Thanks, Kat, for mentioning speaker view in Zoom is good for making sure we're all looking at the speaker. So these digital tools can really get kids interacting during our presentations. Jamboard is super easy to use, and we're going to do a little Jamboard Pictionary here. So I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to open a Jamboard, which if you're in Google Chrome, you just click on your Google Apps and scroll down to the Jamboard J. You'll see I've already got some jams here, but I want to start a new one. So I'm going to click the plus sign in the bottom right corner. And now I've got a blank jam. So you've got some super basic options here. On the left, I've got just my pen. I can change the color and the style, eraser, selector, sticky note. That's the only way to add text to a jam. We can't type right on there, but we can throw a sticky note on. We can add an image or use a laser pointer. So it doesn't have a ton of options, which is why I like it, because while there are more robust tools like Google Slides, this one's just easy to use. Plug and play. And so remember that if you're drawing and you make a mistake, you can always head up to the undo arrow. And let's play a little Pictionary. Make sure you can all see the screen. And you can type your guess in the chat, or you can unmute. Let me know if you recognize what I'm drawing.
Palm tree.
We have a winner. Thank you, Brandon. I'm sorry if Emily, Annie, or Melissa chimed in first, but that's just a quick game you can play with your students. And now that I've shown you how you can access Jamboard, my intention is to have someone else share next. I have not practiced transferring over screen share abilities. Angela, if you could help with that, we could have someone else share their screen and play, or another option is I could share this jam in the chat and have someone else jump in.
Sure. I'm going to reclaim host, and then I'm going to have multiple. Well, actually, you can do this, Kate, at the bottom where it says share screen. You just click the little arrow, and you can do multiple, allow multiple participants to share. Does that work?
Let's see. When I click on, it says new share, and I'm not seeing multiple as an option. I see desktop, whiteboard, iPhone.
Okay.
Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. But what I will do then is I'll just share the link to my jam, and this will allow anyone with the link to edit. But rather than everyone jumping in and editing, I would like someone who would like to play Pictionary, wants to draw the next drawing, to type in the chat. Let us know. if you are willing to draw the next drawing. And oops, that still says PVUSD. We want anyone with the link. Okay, Brandon's game. All right, Brandon, there's the link to the Jamboard. You should be able to click on that link and jump in. I'm going to create a second page for you. I'd like you to go to page 2 using the arrow at the top. And we're just going to have just Brandon's going to be drawing on there. Remember, the tools are on your left, and anyone can guess Brandon's drawing. Let's see, Brandon, is that you drawing there? Someone's erasing. Brandon, if you could unmute and let us know if you were able to get to the jam and are drawing.
Sorry, no, that's not me. I'm not sure who is the green arrow, but that's okay.
Okay, were you able to access the jam?
I was, but I wasn't given the ability to like hit the back arrow or anything like that. Let's see if I can find it again.
Okay, cool. Once you get there, you want to hit the marker or the pen and choose one of those. You might still be on select.
Oh, there I am. All right, so got it. Okay, so Pictionary, here we go.
Let's see, maybe she's on page 1.
Oh, no, I'm on page 2.
Oh, okay, there you are. It just took a second. All right, share your guesses in the chat or unmute.
Strawberry.
Yes.
Yay.
Awesome, we got it working. All right. And Brandon, was that your first time using Jamboard?
That was my first time using Jamboard.
So pretty simple. Thank you for taking a risk and participating with us. I'm going to go ahead and change the sharing settings on that now. Kick you all out. I'll make it restricted again, right? So if you were teaching also, you'd want to make sure that you didn't just leave that up, but that you open it for the game and close it when you're done. Oops, let me head back to that presentation. So that was Jamboard. It's a digital whiteboard, and it's just easy from the Google Chrome app. Waffle, find your Jamboard, and as long as you're sharing your screen, everyone can see it. Padlet is another tool that is very easy to use. I've created a Padlet here. I'll show you. This is the Padlet that I created for today. It's called Virtual Class Meetings Idea Sharing. And so I'm hoping to get some ideas from all of you, what suggestions you have for making virtual class meetings fun and engaging. And they could be ideas that you're getting today or ideas that I haven't shared. Any ideas that you have for getting to know our students online. I want to show you a little bit about Padlet. In the settings here, I can change my title, my description. I chose little brain icon. I'm going to go ahead and copy this link and share it with you all in the chat. And if you click on that link, that'll take you to the Padlet. Anywhere on the Padlet, you can double click to add your idea, and a window will pop up where you can title your post to answer those questions. You can add in links, you can add in pictures. And if you click on the 3 dots, it'll show you all your options for adding, right? You can use your voice to record audio if you're not typing, right? You can snap a quick picture, add a link or a Google image. So many ways to answer your questions. Wendy asks, do you need to buy a subscription to Padlet? Padlet is free, but the free version only has 3 Padlets for free. So I've currently reached my 3 out of 3, and so I'll have to go and delete one next time I want to make a Padlet, right? To have unlimited Padlets does cost, but you can use the tool for free, just limited to 3. All right, I see my Padlet has been updated, so I'm gonna click update to see everybody's in here typing. We've got an idea share going on. So right live during your meeting, you can all be in here typing some different ideas. This can be great for brainstorming. Also in the paid version, students are able to create their own Padlets as well, which can be super useful for group work. Right, and that is our Padlet. I have one question, how do we add to the Padlet? So again, you would click on the link. Once you get to the Padlet, you can either double click anywhere in the blank space, like in the blue background, or you should see, sorry, I've got too many windows up here, but there was a plus sign in, I believe, the bottom right corner, maybe when you first get there. But if not, you can scroll all the way down to like the bottom blue space and double click, and then it'll open a new box for you, and all the newest posts go to the top. Yes, thank you, Sierra, for commenting there that you can set it so students can comment too. So once we've got a lot of ideas up here, you can go through and you can click the heart to like someone's comment, right? Or like someone's post, or you can add a comment below. And those are features that you can turn on or off. If I scroll down here in my settings for this, I have comments turned on. I have attribution turned off, so you can all post anonymously, but if you want to make sure that student's name is attached to their post, you can turn attribution on. And then there are different reactions. I just turned like on, but you can use upvote, downvote. You can use grade or giving posts 1 through 5 stars. Right? So those are super useful ways for students to interact with each other and evaluate each other's writing.
Kate, there was a question about if you can save the Padlet. Does it automatically save?
Thank you. Yeah. So once you need to delete a Padlet, in order to make room for another one, you can save it as a PDF, but a lot of the content will be lost. If students are adding in videos or voice recordings, those wouldn't be savable. So that's one where the premium version comes in handy, being able to have unlimited Padlets. Also, yeah, thanks, Heather. You might check out Wakelet. There's another Padlet style program. And thank you, Angela, for chiming in with those questions. So a couple other tools. Oh, good, we're making some good time. We've still got over 15 minutes, and I wanted to show you a little bit of Pear Deck, which is super fun. And I have I've prepared a little Pear Deck presentation for us to play along with. You would need either, I recommend having another device. So if you've got your smartphone handy, you can use that, or a tablet, or you can open up another tab on your laptop, but it's going to be best to use another device. So with that, I'm going to head over to my Padlet here, right? It's just a Google Slides presentation that I've used the Pear Deck add-on to add in a few slides with student interactions. These are the 6 options for student questions you can add with Pear Deck. You can add in a text question, multiple choice, a number, where the answer is a number. I haven't used the website feature. I'm assuming that's where the answer is a link. Draw or draggable. In today's activity, things that rock, we're going to be using text and draggable. So if you have your smartphone or a tablet ready, I'm going to do an instructor paste activity. And what you'll do on your smartphone or tablet is just follow the instructions that come up here. Right? So if your students have smartphones, or a lot of them have access to a tablet, this is going to be super easy for them. It's doable on one device. It's just a little clunky having to switch back and forth. So here are your instructions. You are going to go to this URL, joinpd.com. And when you get there, you will enter this 5-letter code, QSGUS. Quick submarines give underwhelmed submarines. And my screen, this teacher screen here, tells me one student is connected. I'll watch that number in the bottom left here, and I'll wait till we've got maybe 10 or 15 connected. And if I start the class and you're not in, you'll still be able to join in the middle of the activity. Seems like a lot of people are connecting, so I'll give it a few more seconds. While you're connecting, I can say a little bit about Pear Deck versus Nearpod. I've found that Nearpod has a big lesson library, right, of pre-made lessons. Pear Deck doesn't have that. It has templates, right, where you're putting in the content. And I really like that. It encourages creativity. As far as what kinds of activities they have in each one, they're pretty similar. And one thing that bothers me about Pear Deck is it kind of forces you into their free trial. And I've had to wait till that lapses so I can find out, well, what's actually free? So that's just a little bit about the difference between the two. So we got 43 connected. Let's go ahead and start our Pear Deck class. This is called Things That Rock. This will help you get to know your students' preferences. And what you're going to do on each slide is move on your smartphone or tablet or wherever you've joined. You're going to move a little icon somewhere on this red line in between lame and rock. You can even put things in the middle if you're feeling neutral about them. So we will go ahead on to our first item, homework. Go ahead on your phone or tablet, wherever you've joined, and drag that icon to your preference on homework. And as the teacher, I can, give a few seconds, and then I can click Show Responses. And if you look at the teacher screen, you'll be able to see all 43 student responses moving around the screen. It looks like largely we think homework's pretty lame. And I can go ahead and lock the screens now, and you won't be able to move it anymore. So we've locked our responses, and we can kind of talk about it as a class. What do we think about homework? And notice there are some outliers, some people who really think homework rocks. So on the next slide, you have an opportunity to give some examples and defend your position. It's going to ask you to type here. This is one of those written response ones. So why do you think homework's so lame? Or why do you think it rocks? And again, while you're typing, I can hit Show Responses, and we can watch you add your evidence in real time. Yep, homework digs into free time. Kids need time to play. I can really tell if they get it. Stress. Everything's homework. I'd rather be hula hooping. Great. So you get the idea. We defend our preference. And then, I'm sorry if you're in the middle of typing, but I'm going to go ahead and lock screens. And I want you to take a moment to, view someone else's answer and see if maybe your mind might be influenced a little bit. It can be useful sometimes. Unneeded stress, family drama, too much busy work. All right, after reading some of your, let's go back. After reading some of your classmates' responses, I'm going to unlock this first one and give you a chance to change your mind. Were you influenced by your classmates' evidence? Right, and so we can move them around. Maybe more people are like, oh yeah, you're right, homework is really lame. And this presentation just goes through a few different items for students to have preference on in the same method, right? First, working with a partner, lame or rocks, defend your position. Each one, lunchtime, right? Defend your position. Group projects, ungraded papers, team competitions. There's a lot of different slides here for your students to rate. going to go ahead and end our class for now. But everything that I did on Pear Deck today is part of their free version. So keep that in mind. You can do a lot with Pear Deck for free. And I've linked to the PVUSD distance learning website here. I know we're not all in PVUSD, but we want to share what we've done there. So I encourage you all to check that out. We have some tutorials on using all of the tools I've mentioned here. So if you want to learn how to make something like that or get a copy, Elida, just send me an email. I'll help you out. I just have a few more slides here to share with you, and then I'm going to give you some time for some other questions. Just a few advanced options for class meetings, right? If you don't like Jamboard for Pictionary, maybe you want to play it with a document camera. You can set up your smartphone as a dot cam. And some other engagement ideas during your class meetings: invite guest speakers, right? People who your students identify with and can help connect the content to their lives. Take brain breaks, have virtual spirit days, make it fun. I have a link here to Go Noodle where you can play some videos from there to have a little virtual dance party for your brain break. And now I will stop talking to give you some time. We've got about 8 minutes left, and I'm sure there are questions in there that I didn't get to, Angela. At this point, yeah, go ahead.
Question about how to do this on a computer desktop, and I think we just saw that. Any ideas? When I share my screen in Zoom, I often lose my cursor.
I would recommend trying out that Chrome extension for custom cursor. It's a little bit makes it harder to lose it when it's big and colorful. But I haven't experienced that myself. Robertson, I see that when you share your screen, you often lose your cursor.
Can I share what I think she's trying to say?
Please, thank you.
The custom cursor only works when you're on Google Chrome, so the cursor won't work on Zoom. I think that's what the question was.
Thank you. I should check on that. Were any of you, were you able to see my custom cursor during my presentation?
Right now I don't. You have a normal mouse.
Right now I don't, right. Same for me, but at some point during the presentation. So there are certain parts where it will work and certain parts where it won't, I guess. Thank you for that.
And then a couple of people would like to know how to use their smartphone as a dot cam.
Yeah, sure. It's a little bit, there's a few steps to it. And so I just included this here for you to try it out. But basically is you would have the Zoom app or Google Meet app downloaded onto your smartphone. And then you can join the meeting from two places, your laptop and your smartphone. And that way your students can still see your face using your laptop camera, and you'll have your smartphone set up like you see in this picture here, maybe with some soup cans or some textbooks propping it up, and have that sitting over your document. And then the students will have two tiles of you. They'll see your face that you're showing from your desktop or laptop computer, and the other tile will be you joined on your phone where they'll see your document. So it's really as easy as joining from your phone and then propping it up and making sure it's not in selfie mode. Take some time to practice it, but it's doable.
So there's a question from Diane. Notices when she clicks on a link, it's tricky to get back to the original presentation. Are students going to have the same issue of having to go back and forth? And maybe that's about opening a new tab or?
Yeah, I believe so that it is tricky when you're sharing links with students and having them focus on a presentation, right? You're asking a lot of them because working with adult learners here kind of challenged you with that today, but with students, I would do a lot of modeling, practicing, and preparing before ever just throwing my link in the chat and then they're trying to navigate between two windows. It can be confusing, and I would probably, if I was working with students who hadn't done quite that, I hadn't been, moving from tab to tab, I might share my links not during a synchronous session. Or I practice a lot before trying to ask them to do that. So I'm sorry if I threw something at you today that was a little bit hard, but definitely navigating to a link and then trying to find your Zoom window is a little more challenging. I find that's easier with Google Meet. So Diane, you might choose Google Meet for that since it's all happening in one Chrome window.
Then a follow-up question about how to connect an actual document camera to Google Meets.
Okay, yeah, so if you have an actual document camera, you can plug it into your computer and select that as the video. And on Google Meet, right, you go down to the 3 dots in the bottom right corner. That's for more options. You select settings and then choose video, and you'll see a selection of different cameras. If you are going to try using your regular document camera, I suggest connecting that to a second device. Maybe you have a Mac laptop where you're joining the meeting and your students are seeing you, and then you hook up your document camera to a Chromebook maybe. And the reason I suggest that is because that's the only way you could have your students seeing a document and seeing your face at the same time. If it's not important that they see your face, you could just use one device. And instead of having your webcam showing you, you have your doc cam showing your document.
There's a couple of questions about Pear Deck. How does the student-led Pear Deck work? And also, how do we get the URL for Pear Deck?
Okay, thank you. Let's see. So the URL for Pear Deck is linked here off the presentation, right? It's just peardeck.com, I believe. Actually, I didn't link to Pear Deck there. I'm sorry, I linked to a presentation on Pear Deck. So let me make sure I get that right for you. I believe, I mean, if you just Google Pear Deck, I believe it will take you there, but peardeck.com is the website where you would go to sign up for an account. And then student-led Pear Deck is it's the asynchronous version, right? For a student-led Pear Deck, you don't all need to be on Zoom together to play. You can just post the link in Google Classroom and students can play on their own time. So it wouldn't be the same as far as seeing your classmates' responses, but if you're just looking to gather individual information from your students, the student-led Pear Deck is a good option. The URL for my Pear Deck. Let me put, I can share my Pear Deck with you. And this one is not mine either. I copied it from someone else and I hope that their name is on there somewhere too to give them credit. Let's change the share settings. All right, that's the link to my Pear Deck there, and you're welcome to make a copy.
So we're going to keep the chat open for a little bit, but I know we're winding down for this session to give you all a break. And then I will save the chat and make sure that Jason puts that up on the distance learning website.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you everyone for attending, and I hope you got a couple good ideas for how to make your first week engaging and get to know your students and help them get to know each other. I wish you all an excellent start to the school year. My name is Kate Friels. I am a technology innovation coach in the Pajaro Valley Unified School District. This is my second year as a tech coach. I was at Minty White Elementary for 10 years before that and got to know some of the great people in this room. And it is my pleasure to be here today to talk about Icebreakers and getting to know your students virtually. This is a big challenge for us all. And I've spent the last few weeks really digging into how we can get students that same classroom feeling and getting to know their teacher, getting to know their classmates, and building that community. And so I'm excited to share some ideas with you today. We're going to look at ways to do that during live meetings, ways to do that asynchronously, ways to do that with low tech, and ways to do that with tons of tech. So let's get started. Thank you for keeping your mics muted since we're over 30 participants. I'll stop for questions, and when I do, I'll say go ahead and unmute your mic if I haven't answered, but otherwise go ahead and pop those in the chat, and I'll be checking the chat regularly. The first thing I need to do is pop over to my Google form here and get a link for you all. I'm going to use a Google form to get to know you a little bit. So copying that link, and I'm posting it in the chat. So I just posted a link in the chat that you can click on to go to my Google form, where you can answer some questions to tell us all a little bit about yourself. Just to keep in mind, I did not clear the responses from the last group, so it's going to be a little mixed from the people who were in our group during the first session. But go ahead and add your information to that, and we'll see who's in the room. I see my responses are ticking up. I've already gotten a couple of you to submit your form. Thank you. All right, nice. Looks like we've got about 10 of you already submitting. So I'm going to pop over to responses and check out who's in the room. And you can do the same thing with your students, right? You can send them a Google form. I like to use some multiple choice questions in here so that I can kind of get a gauge of where we're all at. So Maria, if you look in the chat, or thank you, Angela, for reposting the link to the form. It's in the chat. And so we'll take a look at your responses. We can see that largely everyone in the first session and this one is teachers. We've got a couple of others. So lots of teachers in the room. What part of the county do you serve? We're kind of split evenly between Santa Cruz and Watsonville, a few others, and some peeps from the San Lorenzo Valley and Aptos. And next, how about using Google Meet or Zoom for class meetings? Pretty even split, but we got some more Zoom users in the room here today. So I'll try to give you ideas that can work on both. And some favorite Ninja Turtles. I think everyone's just clicking on the first one in the list because I know you all love Donatello. Mostly Michelangelo fans here. All right, so thank you for filling out that form to let me know a little bit about you. I'm going to pop back over to my presentation. And I think we'll skip this slide because we just did that. All right, so this next slide has some more information on how you can use Google Forms to get to know your students. I found a great resource made by Jennifer Findley. I've got that link here, and I'm going to click on it to show you what she has put together to share with you all. On this PDF, there are some links to 4 or 5 different forms that templates that she's already made for you that you can reuse as a beginning of the day check-in, end of the day check-in, beginning of week, end of week. Let's take a look at her beginning of the day check-in. So all those links will first force you to make a copy, and then you can edit it to ask the questions that you think are important for your students. We'll wait for this form to load here. But this is her beginning of the day check-in. So it asks for student name. right? And that's always a question that I remember, got to remember to pop into my Google Forms, because if we don't ask for the name, sometimes we can't link the information to the student. But then she's got these great emojis already built into the form, asking students how they're feeling. Are you ready to work? Happy, sleepy, upset, feeling silly, or feeling sick, right? Do you have anything else to tell me? Were you able to find all your work? Do you need any help getting started? And other questions, right? The kind of things we want to check in with our students about daily. And those are all linked off of that PDF. So if you want to grab her beginning of the day or end of day check-in and make yourself a copy, you can do that. And if you scroll down in this PDF, she's even gone through to show you how to make a copy and what are the steps for editing a question, right? So she's really put together a great resource here, and I wanted to make sure you had access to that so that you can start using Google Forms for daily check-ins with your students. But those forms can also be great for interest inventories. Right at the beginning of the school year, I used to always give my students a piece of paper where they would fill out, you know, what's your favorite food? What do you like to do on your free time? How many siblings do you have? To get to know my students, I'd look through those, read a few of them every day after school. But you can probably take that paper form and adapt it, make a Google form, and you can get all that same information from your students. So you can make sure to connect with them on a personal level during the school year. And in a moment here, I'm going to get into some games you can play during your live sessions, but I also wanted to include some information here on planning for successful class meetings. You won't be able to enjoy fun and games until you've really set up your expectations in those meetings well, right? You want to get things running smoothly, make sure your students know how to behave in your meeting, and then you'll be able to start making it more exciting for them. But these resources here on the left, I've got a video made by Ben Cogswell. He's a kindergarten teacher in Salinas who makes a lot of videos. He has got a whole website, coachben.org, where he's got a lot of Seesaw resources that he's put together if you use Seesaw with your students. But this little video he made is pretty cute and shows his kindergartners how to make sure they are ready for a class meeting, right? Making sure that their screen is showing their face in the right angle, right? That they're muting their mic if they have a lot of background noise, that they're not eating cereal during the meeting, things like that. And over here, so this one's really great for the littles. And over on the right here, I've got just a list of expectations. So if you teach upper grades, you might have your students work with you to create their expectations for meetings, just like they would make the class rules with you on the first week of school. And you can post those expectations so that as your students join their meeting, they're seeing those every day and getting more and more familiar with them. And if you'd like, you can come back to this presentation later, click the link here to make your own copy of this drawing, and then you can edit the expectations to your needs. Just checking in the chat. Looks like we're doing good. So keep going here. Great way to get your students interacting and engaged in your content during a live session is to use the chat. So even students who aren't totally literate, aren't typing up everything yet, we can ask them yes or no questions. They can put a Y or an N in the chat. Right, we can ask questions that have one-word answer. Right. With those that are typing a little bit more, we can use that as a conversation starter. Right, maybe you normally had a question of the day up on the whiteboard when students came in. You can still post your conversation starter and let them use the chat for the first few minutes of class. Right, get them connecting with one another. In addition to the chat, I've included just a couple little extensions here that I think can really help engage our students in our presentations. So you'll notice, like right now, we have quite a bit in our chat. And if I wanted to send a link to my Google form, it might get lost in all the links that are in there. Just grabbing my link one more time here. But let's say I want to make sure that my students see the link that I'm sharing in the chat. I can use the extension called Emojis, Emoji Keyboard for Chrome, to pop an emoji into my post. And you'll see if you look in the chat now, mine stands out, right? I have a link, but it's also got that little heart emoji on it. So it stands out from the others and my students can see it more easily. So you can go to the Chrome Web Store and get the emoji keyboard. I've seen a lot of teachers use that in Google Classroom as well, just to make things more visually appealing. But it helps things stand out in the chat when it gets full. The other here is custom cursor for Chrome. And you might see on some screens my custom cursor working. I have it, let me make sure I have it turned on up here. But a custom cursor is another extension that you can use, and it allows you to choose different colored cursors and different size, so that now you should see a big green cursor on the screen. Just makes it easier for your students to see where you're clicking around and to follow along in those presentations, right? Sometimes your presentation screen is so small that it's hard to see the cursor, but with custom cursor, it makes it easier for students to follow along with you. All right, just a couple little extra tips there, but let's get into the games. So here I've got some ideas for low-tech games you can play with your students during your Google Meet or Zoom meeting. Scavenger hunts I've seen have been quite popular. I recommend you use general terms, right, so that all students can participate, right? Instead of asking them to go find a nonfiction text, you might ask them to, or that would actually work pretty well. But instead of saying go find a history book, saying go find something you can read, right? So students can go grab a cereal box as there's something you can read. Giving those general terms just allows everybody to participate. But you can also throw in some content there, right? Go find a sphere, do some geometry. You're teaching art, go find something with texture. So scavenger hunts, and then they can all find those objects and put them in front of the camera, and the first one that's got them wins, right? Get some moving around and sharing some of the objects that they have in their house. So you can also play Would You Rather, and you can do that with your pre-literate students as well. So you can have them type in the chat, right? Would you rather visit the mountains on vacation or the beach? Or you can tell your students, hold up one for the mountains, two for the beach. And they can just do that in their webcam, right? Or they can type a 1 or 2. So would you rather? A descriptive drawing is a fun one. You can have your students have pen and paper at home, and you can describe something to them. Let's say you've already drawn a cartoon monster. You could describe that monster to your class, right? My monster has 5 eyes and 1 in the middle of its forehead. Keep going and describe the whole monster, and then have everyone show their picture and compare. How did it go? Who's who? You could have students send you some facts about themselves privately, like maybe they can send you an email with 3 interesting facts about them, and then you have those collected, and every day you can feature one student and share those facts and have the other classmates guess who you're describing. And 2 truths and a lie is another favorite. Played that at science camp a lot. And just think about what games you used to play in your brick and mortar classroom and ask yourself, can I do that on Google Meet? Can I do that on Zoom? And most likely there's a way to make it work. So without even learning any new tech, we can still have fun with our students. But if you want to incorporate some other tech, these are some programs that I have found really worth your while. Maybe they don't take too much time to learn, and the impact for students is great. First off, Jamboard. It's just a digital whiteboard that's easy to access and has very simple tools. So let's head over to a Google Jamboard now. I'm going to open a new tab. And since I'm in my Google Chrome browser, I can just click on the Google Apps waffle and scroll down to Jamboard. And I already have, looks like 6 jams, they call them. But if I want to make a new one, I just click on the big plus sign in the bottom right corner. And this opens up a brand new jam. And there are definitely tools that are more robust and have more features. But that's why I like Jamboard, is that it's super simple. There's not too many options here. On the left, I've got all my tools. I've got a pen, and I can change the color or style. I've got an eraser, a selector. I can add a sticky note if I want to throw some text on there. I can use the add image or the laser. So those are my basic tools. And when I've got the pen and I've chosen it, then I can just move it on the jam, click and drag to draw. If I make a mistake, remember the undo button is really important, right? Or I can clear everything. So those are just the basic tools that you would need to use Jamboard. And Jamboard is something you could use to play Pictionary with your class, or think of any other games you might play on the whiteboard. You can play them on the Jamboard. So let's play a little round of Pictionary. I'm going to be drawing here, and you can type a guess in the chat, or you can unmute if you have a guess as to what I'm drawing. Yes, ballerina. I like the margarita guess though. It is a ballerina. Thank you. And so I know my drawing, especially with the trackpad, is not super, but it's a fun game, easy to play. I'm going to go ahead and clear the frame. And let's see, the first, Kathy, you were the first one. Kathy, I believe that's Kathy Venzel. Kaput? I'm sorry if I messed up your last name, Kathy.
Hey.
But, yes, it is you. Hi. I think you were the first one to guess ballerina. Would you like to draw the next Pictionary drawing?
Oh, well, sure.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my Jamboard. And I'm going to share it in the chat. It will be accessible by all of you, but please don't click on it. Just let Kathy. I'm going to change the permissions here so that anyone with the link can edit my jam. And so if I was using this with my whole class, I would maybe just share it with the one student, or give them some more direction as to where they can type or where they can write. But okay, I'm sharing the link. Oops, that was not the link. We get it one more time. Copy. Okay, the link is in the chat, but we're just going to let Kathy click on that. And you can all watch on my Jamboard. It shows that one person joined. I'm hoping that's Kathy. Well, a couple people joined. So we'll just let Kathy draw though.
Okay. Can you see what I'm doing?
It might take a second, a little lag, but we should be able to in a moment.
Okay, and I'll do red. And let's see, okay.
There we go. I'm starting to see something. So if you recognize what Kathy's drawing, you can unmute or type in the chat. I see some guesses. Guitar. Is it a shoreline, Kathy? Beach. Looks like Kurt and Joy were the first ones to guess shoreline or beach. Awesome job. So Kathy, had you ever used Jamboard before?
No, I'm just trying to get to know it. I'm seeing lots of possibilities.
Awesome. So I just wanted to show, like, you know, Kathy's never used this before, and we were pretty quickly able to get her on there, get her drawing. And so it's a really simple tool to use. And I hope that you'll find a use for Jamboard this year, but Pictionary is one possibility. So thank you for playing, Kathy. I'm going to go in now and...
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm going to change this back to restricted. And I would recommend doing the same if you're playing with your students as well. When you're done, just set it back to so that only you can see it, only you can edit it. All right, so that is Jamboard. There's so much more you can do with Jamboard, but just wanted to show you the basics today since we have limited time. Padlet is another awesome tool that is pretty plug and play. I have created a Padlet here, and let me just grab the link. My last session was already on this Padlet, and so when you click on this link, you're going to see already a bunch of other ideas up. It looks like this, and what you can do is you can read through some of other people's ideas. The questions are at the top. I asked, what suggestions do you have for making virtual class meetings fun and engaging? How can we get to know our students online? So you can look through at some of the different ideas people put up, and I think a lot of people were also just practicing using Padlet, so they posted a picture or just a couple words. But you have the ability to go through, and if you see a good idea, you can click the heart to like someone's idea, right, as I did here, or you can click to add a comment below. Or if you want to add your own idea to the Padlet, just scroll down to some blank space and double click. And that will open a brand new tile for you at the top left where you can add whatever you want. So share some ideas with your class about how to make virtual class meetings fun and engaging. And this is the free version of Padlet that I'm using here. I'm limited to 3 Padlets with the free version. And so as I've already reached my limit of 3, if I want to make another one, I'll have to delete a Padlet. You can save them to PDF before deleting, but since they contain things like sometimes videos, or students can add audio recordings, those won't save in a PDF. Right? So you can't really keep the whole Padlet as is, but it'll just save the text. There is the premium version, which allows you to have unlimited Padlets, and students can create Padlets as well. So that's great for group work. I do want to show you just a couple of the options you have in the settings here. I have it set where you can like and comment on posts. And those are here under reactions, but there are some other options too. You can have it set to no reactions, or you can have your students interact even more by having them upvote or downvote posts, or give posts 1 to 5 stars, or give them a grade, right? They can evaluate each other's writing. And then I have attribution off, which allows you all to anonymously post on the Padlet, but that's a tool that you might want to turn on sometimes when you want to make sure you know who wrote that, right? You can turn attribution off and it will put the name attached to each post. So that's just a little bit about Padlet. Let me head back over to my presentation. And let me take just a moment to check our chat. Okay, doing good, great. Oops, we're not done there. Okay, so we've got Jamboard and Padlet. Nearpod and Pear Deck are 2 very similar tools that can be used to enhance your existing slide presentations. Whether you've got PowerPoints or Google slide presentations, you can use a tool like Nearpod or Pear Deck to add in interactive slides. And I will show you a slideshow that I have here. My Things That Rock slideshow, borrowed from the Pear Deck library, where there were some templates shared. I see, can you share your screen? Please let me know. I am sharing my screen right now, and you should be looking at my Google Slides, Kate's copy of Pear Deck. Please type a yes in the chat if you see Google Slides, Kate's copy. Okay, looks like everybody's seeing that, so I'm not sure if that one person, maybe change your view out of gallery view. Maybe that's why you're not seeing my screen, Kim. But it looks like I am sharing correctly. Thanks for chiming in, everybody. All right, so this is the Pear Deck add-on I have open here on the right side of my Google Slides, and that's found in add-ons. You can get add-ons, and you can see I have a few here. Pear Deck is the one I have open on the right, and this allows me to add questions to my slideshow. There's 6 options here. I can add a text or a multiple choice, a draw or draggable, a number or website. In this game we're about to play, this activity, we're going to be using text and draggable. The way it works best is if you have a second device handy. So grab your smartphone if you've got it, or a tablet. If you don't have another device, you can still play. You can open another tab on your browser, or just watch if you just want to see how it works. But if you have your smartphone or tablet, grab it now, and I'm going to start a lesson. And you have 2 choices with with Pear Deck here. I can either do a student paced mode, and that will allow my students to work asynchronously at their own pace, but it doesn't have as much interaction, right? They won't be able to see all of their classmates' responses. So today, because we're live together, let's do instructor paced activity. And it's going to give you some instructions for what to do on your second device here in just a moment. Okay, here we go. So you're going to go to joinpd.com on that second device or in that other tab. And when you get there, you'll type in CAJLL. Confused avocados jump lovely lemons. And while you're getting there, I can see here right now there's no students connected, but as you start joining, I'll see a number here in the bottom left of this little black window. All right, I've got 1 student connected. I'll give you a few minutes or a few seconds to jump in, and then I'll start the class. While you're doing that, I can answer Kurt's question. Pear Deck and Nearpod. I'm a Pear Deck fan. I've kind of gone back and forth, but I really like that Pear Deck, while Nearpod does have a huge lesson library, Pear Deck has really great templates that rather than, it can be too easy sometimes on Nearpod just to take a pre-made lesson and use it. Pear Deck's templates really encourage creativity and making my own. And so I feel like and today I'm using a template, of course, but I've found that that rather than just using the pre-made ones, that Pear Deck makes it more customizable. You can make your own lessons in Nearpod as well, but I like the activities in Pear Deck and all that comes with the premium version is really nice. As far as premium versions go, Pear Deck wins. Maybe Nearpod might win on the free version. I see I've got 14 students connected, so I'm going to go ahead and start the class. Up here in the top left corner, though, you see that code still. So if you want to join anytime during our class, you can just go to joinpd.com and type that code. So what you're going to do on your smartphone or tablet or wherever you're playing is you're going to have an icon that you can drag along the red line to give your preference on some different items. Tell whether they are lame or whether they rock or somewhere in between. So our first item is homework. So go ahead and on the device where you joined, you can now move an icon to share your preference on homework. And as the teacher, I have some options here. I can click to show responses. I'll do that now. And this shows all 15 people who joined and shows live in real time. If they move their icon, it will show it moving on this screen here. So we've got some different opinions about homework. I'll go ahead and lock the screens in 3, 2, 1. All right, so now you can't move your icon, it's stuck there. And we'll move on to the next slide, or just take a look at, where your classmates fall here. As a class, do we mostly feel like homework rocks? Looks like we've got some strong homework lovers in the group. So on the next slide here, this one asks you to defend your position. So this is one of the written slides. And I'll show you in just a moment the responses as they're coming in. But we're asking, why did you rate it the way you did? Why is homework lame, or why does it rock? So I'll click show responses. And as a class, we can watch the responses come in real time. And we can see what our classmates think about homework. Takes away from family time. Oh, practice makes perfect. Really depends on assignments, just busy work. Practice, practice, practice. I love projects, but I hate busy work. Oh, okay, so it depends on the type of homework, right? So we want to read our classmates' responses. We want to learn from each other. And I'm sorry if you're in the middle of writing your response, but I'm going to keep going and lock the screens. And then we would go back to that original one, and I would unlock it and say, all right, now that you've heard from your classmates, has your opinion changed? And now you can move your icon again, right? Maybe your classmates convinced you that homework's pretty okay, right? And that's how this one goes. So that's the draggable and the written. And this is just a series of draggable and written questions, right? We'd move on to working with a partner. Is it lame or does it rock? Defend your position. How about lunchtime? Group projects, right? Different things like that your students will engage with during the year to get to know how they feel about them at the beginning of the year is helpful for you and them. So that is Pear Deck. I'm going to go ahead and end our class in Pear Deck. Thank you so much for jumping on and trying it out. It is really helpful to have a second device. So if you know that your students all have a smartphone in the house or a tablet they could grab, it's really fun to engage them in a little Pear Deck or Nearpod activity. And whether or not you are a PVUSD employee, I've linked to our distance learning website here on this slide at the bottom, where we have some tutorials on all these tools. So if you want to learn more about using any of these, head over to our website and watch one of our videos or read our how-to documents. And if you are a PVUSD employee, you can always fill out a coaching request to get some more help with that, or refer to the county office for some coaching support as well. Let me take a look in the chat here. I agree, Kate. They might use a different word than lame. Thank you for that. Kurt, I think more useful features. Kind of went over that a little bit. Since we have only a short amount of time, I would love to continue a conversation about the features of both at another time. I'm using free Pear Deck for this game, Melissa. And the saved responses. Yeah, I can go back into Pear Deck and view my different sessions that I've had and student responses. And one thing that I like about Pear Deck as opposed to Nearpod is that Pear Deck asks for your Google sign-on when you go to joinpd.com. When you go to Nearpod, it just asks you to type in your name. So students could type in a name that's not theirs, or they could type in a classmate's name. You have to kind of really set your expectations with them of how they're going to name themselves in Nearpod, whereas Pear Deck, it's Google sign-on. So they're at PVUSD, at least, if you have their Google account, it'll automatically have their real name attached to their work. So that's another reason why I like Pear Deck. All right. I have a couple other tips here for engagement in your lessons. I know a lot of you miss your document cameras in the classroom, and while Jamboard is a cool feature, a cool tool for digital whiteboard, nothing beats that pen on paper, right? So if you want to be able to, whether it's playing a game like Pictionary with your students or just doing some math work, some art using a document camera, I suggest you try this out using a smartphone or tablet if you have one. It's pretty simple, whether you're in Zoom or Google Meet. Just download that app on your phone or tablet. Download the Zoom app or the Google Meet app. And then you can join the meeting on that device as well and prop it up somewhere, whether it's between some soup cans like you see in this picture or propped up by some textbooks. I've seen a lot of different arrangements. But if you can get it propped up sturdy, you can often make yourself a pretty useful document camera. I suggest you try that out. And to keep your meetings interesting, remember to invite guest speakers. Give yourself a break from speaking and invite someone in, whether it's a parent or community member, an expert in the field, someone who your students can relate to and can connect their lives to the content is going to make them want to come to those meetings. Having virtual spirit days, right? You can still do your crazy hair day on Zoom. Remember to take brain breaks. If you've got an hour-long Zoom meeting with your students, get them up, whether it's doing a scavenger hunt or giving them a little music break. That's going to be important. And I've linked here to Go Noodle, where they've got some great videos for little stretch breaks or virtual dance parties. Sue, yes, you can use an iPad to do the document camera trick. If you have an iPad with an Apple Pencil, I really recommend using a note-taking app. And rather than joining with the camera, you can join on your iPad, and it's a little bit other step. But if you have the pencil, I'd love to show you this, that you can share the screen of your iPad and then open a noting app like Notability, and then you're writing right with your Apple Pencil on the screen, and it's really nice and easy for sharing some drawing or writing. But you can definitely just hook it up as a document camera also and prop it up somehow. And so we've only got about 5-6 minutes left in our meeting here. I want to make sure I give you a chance to ask some questions. I will look up the cost of the premium Padlet, and I will give you permission here to unmute if you have a question I didn't address, or continue typing in the chat if you're more comfortable with that.
Kate, how can I get your help using the iPad with the pen? I just need a couple pointers, and I wondered when can I get that information or help?
You can send me an email, Roni, or fill out a coaching request on the PVUSD website. But that will probably be the best way for us to connect one-on-one and try it out together.
Okay, I'll send you an email. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And it looks like it says from $8 a month for Padlet. And so monthly is $10 and an annual subscription is $96. And I know that does include unlimited Padlets and allows your students to create their own as well. So if you are a PVUSD teacher, I believe we are working on trying to get this for anyone at PVUSD who wants to use it. So keep your ears open for more info on that, and I wouldn't buy your own quite yet. Sue, you do not need to download anything for Jamboard. Again, it's one of the apps in your Google Waffle. So if you just opened a new tab and you're on that Google homepage, you'll see that Google Waffle in the top right, and you can just scroll right down to Jamboard and it'll open automatically. Or you can just type jamboard.google.com or Google search Jamboard. Nothing to download, it's ready to go. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you all for your time today. No need to stay till the very end if you don't have any more questions. That is the end of the presentation, but I am just going to stay here for anyone who has further questions. Another little tip I'd like to share for those of you who are hanging out is how to add some music to your slides. I had some music playing at the beginning, and if you want to know how I did that, I got my music from the YouTube studio. So here I am on my YouTube account, and I just go up to the top and select YouTube Studio. And I love all of the free music that you can find in here. It's all copyright free. You can download it and then upload it to your Google Drive and pop it into your slideshow. It's taken a second to load here, but now I'm in YouTube Studio, and on the left I can scroll down to Audio Library right here. They have a great audio library, and it tells you over here you can click play to sample it or the arrow to download, but it tells you the genre and the mood, the duration. So one cool feature is I can search by duration. So for my intro, I wanted something that was exactly 4 minutes long. So I put in my time, and now everything over here is sorted, things that are longer than 5 minutes. If I click the word duration, now it sorts it by time. So everything that's exactly 4 minutes is at the top. So I have all these options for something that's exactly 4 minutes. Do I want something funky, something dark, something calm? Right? You find exactly what you need, and just download it, and then you can upload it to your slideshow. And once you get into your slides, it's as simple as going to Insert Audio, right? And then that lets you access any audio tracks you have in your drive. And
Where
if
did
you
you
like
get
adding
that,
music
Kate?
in.
Where did you get the studio? I have YouTube, but where was it? You clicked on studio?
So if you are at your YouTube homepage, just youtube.com, in the
Yeah.
top right, you should see your profile picture. And if you click on that profile picture, mine will load here in a minute.
Oh, I found it. Thank you.
YouTube Studio, yeah, it should be the third option down.
Got
right
it.
there.
Thank
And then
you.
once you're there, on the right-hand side, you'll find audio files. Yeah.
Excellent.
And just checking in the chat. No more questions. Looking good. Great. Thanks, Juan. Thank you, everybody. All right. So with that, I will say happy Friday. Have a great weekend, and I hope the start to your school year is awesome. Thanks for joining me in this session today. It was my pleasure.